Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
So this evening, you've come out to listen to a message about holiday blues. Did you know what this was going to be about? Because we're going to go into the deep end of the pool tonight. You know, the thing of it is that the confusion for ourselves as human beings is kind of the way we talk about our lives that I think sows a lot of confusion about who we really are. There's a lot of things that means, but one of the things that I'm particularly thinking of tonight is that we tend to speak of ourselves as growing up, right? We grow up. And we also go through stages of life. Isn't that kind of how we see ourselves? We see ourselves advancing. So we kind of start to talk about ourselves and think about ourselves as linear beings, right? That we're on some sort of a trajectory. We're on a spectrum. This was me then. This is me now. There's something in my future. So I'm sort of on a line, right? But the truth is, we are not linear beings. We are cyclical beings. We are, if you look around, not only are we of nature, but nature itself is cyclical. You know, the sun rotates, well, actually, okay, let me get my science right. We revolve around the sun. It just looks like it rotates around us. That was an earlier misconception we had. The moon also does circle around us, and this whole idea is that somehow we are, a part of that movement, of those cycles of life, of the ways in which things come around again, which is why I think we're always so surprised when something from our past shows up again in real time. Yes? So that, because we think we left it back there somewhere, right? And we don't think we can go backwards. A lot of times we think that if it's back there, we can't even find it. There's no point. It's over with. We dealt with it. We're over it because it's back there. But the truth is, things keep coming back around. And it is particularly at holiday time, in particular, that becomes sort of a resonant touchstone for us. Here's some of the reasons for that. You see, when we think of leaving our losses and our hardships behind us, anniversaries come back around, and they remind us of that loss. They remind us of when we had that terrible car accident, or when we lost, when we divorced, or when we lost a family member. That anniversary comes back around. And when it does, we find ourselves not consciously maybe even aware or even remembering that, but suddenly the emotions start to arise in us, and we start to feel sad, or we start to feel lost again, sort of confused. We start to feel that heaviness again. And so holidays really do provoke that, because they're also about family gatherings. They're about friend gatherings with our friends. And so a lot of times what we're doing is we're looking back at the visceral memories of how different this year is than my unconscious expectation of it, right? Like I carry maybe some really positive good old days with me, and I keep wanting to recreate them, and every year I get disappointed. You? Maybe. Or sometimes this is great, it's good, you have come from a very difficult or challenging time in your life, and now things really are good. But there's still that visceral memory of when things weren't so good. Or memories that we may have from a past of dysfunctional family stuff. Because I'll tell you what, dysfunctional families, they're at their zenith of dysfunction at holidays. I don't know if I'm telling you something you didn't already know, but it is the truth. So aren't you glad you came tonight? Just to be reminded of all that stuff? Well, the good news is that we're actually remembering this and talking about this at the right and perfect time, because you know what? The good news is that holidays come at the right and perfect time for us cyclical, earthbound, earthen beings. Why is that? Because the last 3 months of the calendar year into the new year are the darkest, right? The shortest days, the longest nights. It's the time that has always been set up in our psyches from the beginning, from the times of our connection with the cycles of seasons and the cycles of the earth and our own internal cycling, that we actually recognize that this is the time for reflection. It's not a time for big activity. It's not a big time to start a new venture. This is the time to kind of hunker down, sit by the fire, stare into firelight, stare up into a dark sky of starlight, to look around us at holiday lights, and to just reflect and let that light soak back down into us and take stock of things, to take a look in our lives, to take a deeper look in ourselves. So how do we handle these holiday blues as they come up? I thought you'd never ask. Awareness of our feelings. I know, maybe that's the one you're like, I was hoping it wouldn't be about that. But it really is, because here's the deal. You have already lived through whatever happened. You have already overcome. You have already survived whatever it was, whatever you most feared, whatever you were unexpectedly knocked off your feet, the thing that you did not see coming, the thing that you hunker down and defend and prepare yourself for so that it won't come again. But you've already survived it. And so feeling some of the undigested, unintegrated part of that is merely your soul calling for wholeness, calling for the whole piece of you to be reunited and to be integrated again. And when it comes up for you, what it's actually saying is that you're now ready. Your psyche is ready. You have some support in your life. You have some awareness. You have some strength. You have some stability. You're ready for this. Because if you weren't ready for it, it would not arise right now, not at least in its fullness. It arises when you're ready to take a look at it now, under these conditions, in this place in your life. And so the good news is that that's exactly what this time of year is for. That this is exactly what our healing work is about. This is exactly what spiritual beings do. And the more we do it, the more capable and efficient and competent we become at being capable of recognizing and naming our feelings and dealing with them and recognizing those things that don't feel good but are still not true about us. Did you hear that? Things that don't feel good but are still not true about us. That we don't fall into that trap of believing that the bad feeling is who I am. And I can't believe I'm here again. And I can't believe this happened to me again. But we are not that feeling. The feeling itself is just a feeling. And the magic is that as we allow that feeling to move, if we give it space and don't allow ourselves to go into believing it, into cultivating it, but rather just watch it and allow it to bubble up, what actually happens is that it changes. And that it often not only changes, but it begins to integrate and it begins to transform into something else. And what is attached to that, very often, is a buried piece of the beauty of our soul that went down and has been covered up by an uncomfortable feeling we didn't want to own, we didn't want to recognize, we didn't want to know about. And this is what we call integration and the opportunity for healing. This is the good news. This is why we are here. This is why we are called divine being. Because we have this great capacity to heal in the innermost chambers of our hearts. When I was talking earlier about the linear thing, the other thing to know is that the things that happened in the past don't actually happen in the past because there actually is no such thing. The past and anything in it is already here. I've been walking around with it. I've been carrying it with me. I've been denying it perhaps, or I've got it sequestered away. I don't deal with it all the time. Maybe I've never dealt with it. But it is here and it's with me, waiting for the opportunity to be brought back into the light. The future is not stretched out in front of me, but it too is already here. It's within me. It is a seed. It is a potentiality. It is one of my many choices to open to and to step into. But it's here as well. This is why we call ourselves whole. And it is only the capacity of our minds and our hearts to accept the wholeness of who we are, that we may be transformed into the light we have always been. Transformed in such a way that we can express it, that we show it in the world, that we bring it into expression in the world. The second thing we do, besides awareness of our feelings, is to remember our resilience. It is part of, PTSD treatment. When somebody has a traumatic event in their life, one of the most important steps is to tell the story of what happened. To tell the story of what happened to those who can hear and really listen deeply, to those who care about us, to those who are perhaps wiser than us, who can ask us questions about that experience, so that we can hear our own story, tell our story, let it loose, and follow the trajectory of that story from surprise and upset and loss through all of the experience to the point that we have become not just survivors, but we have become resilient in our new life that we have found after whatever has happened to us, that no longer defines us, that no longer has control over us. Remembering our resilience is a powerful part of wholeness and healing work. So if you have a story that keeps coming back up for you, it's time to tell it to somebody who can really help you walk through it. That could be a professional. It could simply be telling it to somebody wiser than yourself. And above all, someone who cares deeply about you and is capable, who is not gauged in your life in such a way that they're impacted by your awareness or by your life, but somebody who will walk with you through it. And as you tell that story and as you relive it, there'll be a way in which you will begin to see yourself as completely competent, that even in your surprise by the unimaginable or by the unexpected, you still manage to come through and be here. That whatever it was you did to cope, to compensate, to manage, to handle, whatever that was, didn't come because you were prepared for it, but in fact because you weren't prepared for it. Whatever it was that was deep inside of you, that great capacity, came into being, came alive in you. And when you see it that way, you'll begin to recognize and realize that you don't have to be prepared for every possibility of misfortune or loss or pain in your life. You don't have to be always prepared, always ready, which means always defended, always on guard, never free. Because you are already the competent superpower that will find whatever strength, whatever resilience, whatever tool, whatever gift. And maybe it's something you've never known was true about you. You never knew you had. It was called out of you because of what happened to you. The third thing we do, besides becoming aware of our feelings and remembering our resilience, is to care for ourselves. Give ourselves time to reflect. Spend some of this dark time in quiet, in reflection, playing meditative music, spending time doing hobbies that you enjoy, where you can just put your hands to work, or you can be engaged or involved and kind of let something else vegetate in the back of your mind. You know what that's like? It's like when you're taking a shower and suddenly the answer to a problem suddenly comes in, and your cell phone, you can't even grab it because your hands are wet, right? You can't take care of it right then. It's like that. It's like something will fall into place while you're occupied doing something else, repetitive, something else, turning on another part of your brain. Share your feelings and memories with people who love you. You know who they are. And if you're sometimes not sure, start a list of the people you know, you imagine will always love you no matter what. Journal, draw, paint. You don't have to be an artist. You can go to the dollar store and get one of those little kitty paint by number things. You can get one of those little kits where all you do is take the little plastic brush out, dip it in some water, and paint on paper. You'll be amazed at what will come out of you. And that meditative experience is a beautiful way to let something reveal itself to you. Allow yourself to just go into one of the art forms, journaling and writing your story out, telling your truth to yourself, drawing, letting it come forth. And then take charge of your holiday time. Take charge of this time of your life. Instead of letting, Aunt Charlotte tell you what time to be, what to bring, where you're supposed to show up, consider making some changes to all the expectations of what you're supposed to do and let other people run you. Instead, find a corner of your holiday that's just for you, that you designed, that you take care of yourself in this particular time, because this is a time that is ripe for change and for deep awareness. And you can't do that in crowds, and you certainly can't do it when you're being managed by other people. How would you like to experience the holidays this year? Who would you like to be with? How would you like that holiday to be celebrated? Where would you like to do it? When would you like to do it? Dare you even answer those questions, right? Think about it. Spend some time daydreaming. What would it be like? Then make a plan and ask the important people in your life for what you want. Some of those important people ought to be the ones who also love you no matter what. Hopefully some of them, what's that called? What's not integrate? What is that? Cross, when two things cross right there? Intersect, that's the word I'm looking for. Intersect, thank you. I think I've used my allotment of words, so I'm gonna wrap this up right now. When those two things intersect, somebody who loves you and somebody who's important in your life, those are the people who really, you need to ask for their attention and tell them what it is that you really would like to have. And build something they would like to have as well. Find a way that you can redesign, perhaps, an old familiar pattern that you've just kind of gone unconscious about, and you just do it because this is what we always do, and this is who we always do it with, and this is when we always do it. Make a plan and create a new experience for yourself. It'll be fresh, and something amazing will come out of it. And above all, no matter what, be willing to feel. Be willing to give yourself space, compassion, tenderness, and self-love. You can't expect all the love to come at you from some other place or some other being. You have got to be the one to give it to yourself first, and then others will follow your good example. Joy comes through the same door that grief comes through. We can't shut out grief and ever expect to feel joy. We can't shut the door on our own experience and think that we can still grow if we're not going to be willing to open the door of the painful, of the scary, of the long ago, of the hurtful, and not be willing to at least take a part of it out, look at it, and heal ourselves by reintegrating it. Our feelings naturally will do that and lead us into that beautiful new place. Joy comes through the same door as grief. Open the door all the way. And when you do, then you're going to be able to say, "Happy holidays, y'all." God bless you all.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.